Good evening, good afternoon once again, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for another wonderful session. It's so good to see my cohort mate here once again. And so let's introduce ourselves in the chat room for the next few minutes. Let's get to know each other. Kindly tell us your name and where you are joining us from. My name is Bukumi and I'm joining from Lagos this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be starting the session soon. Welcome, Ike Okechukwu from Owerri. Okay, yeah, so I think we have our awesome facilitator on the call already. Let me check the chat. Yes, great. Good evening, Mrs. Bilikisu. It's so good to have you here once again, facilitating this awesome session. Please confirm if you can hear me, ma.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening, ma. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so yes. So ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Mrs. Bilikisu in the chat room. Let's welcome her in the chat room. Welcome once again, ma. So you have the floor, ma. Hello, Mrs. Bilikisu, can you share your screen?
Okay, give me a minute. So I was just expecting the intro first. So I'm going to bring up my system now.
Okay. Okay, so I just made you the code. So whenever you are ready, you can start sharing your screen, ma. So yes, so ladies and gentlemen, let us hear your story in the chat room. Tell us how this program, this data visualization hands-on project has been. Tell us what you've learned and how it has been so far. This is the 4th week, and it's been a great, wonderful session. Our facilitator teaching us how to use the Power BI, the great data visualization tool. Let's hear your story in the chat room. Tell us how you are feeling and what you are also expecting to learn from this session this evening. Okay, your screen is up, ma.
Okay, thank you so much. So good day once again, everybody. So without wasting much of our time, I believe you were part of the class for the live session, the last live session. So I wouldn't be going into what we did the last one. So you have to watch the video. We've done the cleaning of the data. So, okay, I think we have our data here, and the data has been subset into the last 3 years of the data set. I shared the data set as well during the live class. So you have to go back to the classroom and kind of get the data. Then I will share where we stopped. That will be the file, the PBIX file, so that maybe you can follow along, or maybe you didn't get to kind of finish up where we stopped the last class. So I'll share that in the chat. So you might want to download that and join me. So I've shared it in the chat, and I'm also going to share on the classroom at the end of this session, live session. So without wasting much of the time, I think you can still, can you see my screen? Please confirm if you can still see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen, ma.
Okay, thank you so much. So today we're going to be looking at, from our data set that we've created, we've cleaned, to the extent that we can begin the analysis. We're going to look at creating visuals today. So we're going to look at creating different visuals. So a range of different visuals, and we're also going to look at filtering our visuals. So the cross filtering and the highlights and so on. So we're going to look at creating groups and hierarchies, and also adding new visuals. We'll look at a simple hands-on on using data analysis expressions as well in creating our new columns. So wherever we stop today, because the time is always short for me, so I will record some videos to make it up so you can kind of look up to getting the videos in the class. So now we're going to look at our working environment. So I'm going to take you through before we start creating our visuals. So if you've gotten the file, kindly download, follow along with me. If you cannot catch up with me, so kind of watch the video at the end. So thank you. So now the first thing we have to look at is that when you open the Power BI, you open your work file, the PBIX file. This is the default screen that you might be seeing. So I want to take you through this so that you get familiar with this. Then we'll continue the lab in the classroom, the Google Classroom. So this is the first thing that you'll see, and you have different tabs for the menu that you can be working with. So depending on this icon on this side, on your left side where my cursor is, the first one is for your reports. If you scroll over or hover on the icon, you get to see the report icon. That's where your visuals are going to be displayed. Then we have the next one as the data icon. So if you click on this, you get to see all your tables displayed to you. You click each one of them. So then the third one is for the modeling. So you look at the model of your entire data for your reports. So you also get to see the relationship between each of the tables. So for this, you might have this screen so big this way, but you can collapse some of the panes on the right side. Then we have the models displayed to you and the relationship that have been detected by Power BI by default. So if you cannot get to see the entire relationship, you can use the functionalities here, down here, for you to kind of increase or decrease your window, or you click the box, the rectangular box here. So this will fit in at the entire tables that you have in your model, so you get to see everything. So whichever icon you're clicking, you see that the menus here are changing. They are changing, and it's presenting to you the tabs and the menus, the functionalities that you can use while you're working in your Power BI environment. So, and you also have help file. So let me just get this. So there are other help files as well that you can see. Let me just kind of take out this menu. Okay, good. So there are help files and external tools that you can use as well on this, on your environment. So we're going to go into looking at first our data. We need to have a relationship between all the tables. So in Power BI, we have, for us to create data models, we need to look at the relationship between our tables first. By default, Power BI has detected some simple interaction or relationship between our data. You can see the manufacturer's table and the product table are linked together. So also the product and the sales table, they are also connected together. So we have different relationships that can occur between the tables. We have the one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. The most common one is one-to-many. And this is what you can see on the screen here. Okay, so here we can see that for the manufacturer, it's having a one-to-many. If you look at this, roll over on the relationship line, you will be able to see which of the features or the values there are actually creating that relationship. So in this instance, we are seeing that manufacturer ID and the manufacturer ID in the product table are the ones being used for the relationship here between the manufacturer table and the product table. So, but why one and many? The reason why we're having many here on the product table is that there are values that are being repeated here, okay? So the product table is always recognized as the facts table. We have basic facts that are repeated, but the manufacturer table in this instance is going to be the dimension table, which are the actual facts, the real description of the information that you're getting where there is repetition. That's in the product table. So you have unique identification of the manufacturers here in the manufacturer table, while in the product table, they are being used for each record. So that's why this is our fact table in this kind of relationship. So that's why we have one uniquely identified one in the manufacturer table, while we have so many of those IDs repeated in the product table. So the same thing goes for the relationship between product and sales table. So the product table now in this case is the dimension table, which are the actual, while the sales table is the one that is going to be our fact table that's representing the repeated observation of values that we're looking at. So now we have relationship here, so which we can use in creating visuals that make sense, that helps us to compare or look at the relationship between all these facts. So, but if you look on the left side, the geography table now is kind of isolated. There's no relationship between it and all the remaining three tables. We need to look for a way of having a relationship here. So if we go back to the report window, we would have to start, let's create a report, a visual now to show you, we want to look at unique, sorry, am I having a question? Okay, no questions here. Okay, so I'm going ahead. So here we want to create a visual. We want to look at the relationship between our sales, the revenue that are being generated. For those who are in the class, the last class, I want to quickly go through the data. The data is about a survey that has been generated on behalf of Van Asdale Company. It's a manufacturing company. So they are kind of getting data about their competitors. So they want to look at their sales, how they are performing in the market. Is more or less like, okay, maybe MTN or maybe Airtel is kind of contracting the survey to a company that, okay, we want you to get a survey about our company as well as the other companies. We want to see how we're performing compared to our competitors in the market. So for each country, their presence is different countries. So, and also they have other companies that are selling the same products as Van Asdale. So we're going to kind of build a report that we're going to showcase and kind of make insights for Van Asdale to be able to share with their marketing department. That's our chief marketing officer now, that they will now use to make future strategic decisions. That's basically what we're doing now. So now I want to create a visual. So before we go back to the relationships now. So if I decide to, okay, let's take the clustered column charts now. So if I click on this, the chart is going to come to this window. This is where our visual is going to be located. So you can bring down the visual like this so that we have some space around it. We're not going to just be locking ourselves on the edges of the window. So this is a cluster column chart. So we have other charts that you can create here, which we're not going to go too much into that. But as we're working along in this lab, you're going to see the use of some of the other visuals. So here I've decided to use a clustered column chart. So I now want to look at the performance, the revenue that has been generated in each of the countries. So we're looking at revenue versus the country now. So for you to have a unique, a basic insight, I'll use a layman's description here. We need to have unique values, and we can only get unique values in our dimension tables. So here I'm going to select the country. So now the visual is recognizing that I've selected one of the fields here in the fields pane. So the visual was brought out from the visuals pane. So we'll also look at the filters pane as we go along. So now the next thing would be, okay, what are we kind of comparing or we're trying to look at in the country? So we're going to come down to the sales table. We select the revenue. But now, if we look at the revenue, it's the same thing for all the countries, which doesn't make sense. It's not the same thing. So if we go to the data, I will click on the data icon. If you look through, the revenue is not the same thing for all the countries. It can't be. The aggregation cannot be the same thing. So something is wrong. So that means the reason why this is showing this way is that there's no relationship between this table and the sales table. That's the geography table and the sales table. So now we need to go back and create a relationship that will help us to make visuals that are sensible, that gives us insight, quick insight into the data that we're having. So now we want to create a relationship now. We know for the sales table, we have a zip field, and the geography also has a zip field. So let's try and drag this. We'll need to drag from the facts to the dimension table. So if I drag this to the zip field in the geography table, we'll get a warning in the window that pops up. So now it's telling us this is a many-to-many relationship. That means there's kind of, if we look at what the description of the problem here, a warning in this instance, the zip values are different, but we have the same country. So the same thing goes on here. The zip values are different, but we have the same country. That means we cannot have repeated values because it's going to cause a lot of a problem in what is being displayed in our visuals. So we need to find a way of creating a relationship between these two tables. So the logical relationship that we might want to use, if we cannot use a single field, you might want to combine fields. So I'll give an example, like maybe we have first name and the last name. We don't have any other unique identifier. Then we might want to, or maybe, okay, let me take states in Nigeria. There's I came across a data that Kano State as a local government. I think Kano or Kaduna State as a local government that is Nasarawa. And the same thing is also available in Nasarawa State. So how do we have these two? How do we differentiate now? Or want to uniquely identify the Nasarawa for Kano State and the Nasarawa for Nasarawa State? So we need to create a relationship that helps us to kind of resolve that repetition or kind of similarities between the two. So in this instance, we're going to combine the zip and the country fields. We're going to combine them together using the data analysis expression, that's DAX. So we're going to use this to create a new column. Okay, so this new column is going to help us to create the relationship that we're actually looking for. So here now we're going to cancel this. We don't want this relationship. So we'll go back to our data window. That's the window that, okay, here now, we have different options of creating these columns. So you can right click on each of the table and you have some menus that are options for you. So you can see new measure, new column, and so on. So here we would want to use new column. So here we're going to create a new column that we're going to name zip country. So this is going to, that we've started writing our, kind of creating our DAX formula now. So we're going to use this. Then the first thing is that we want to use the zip, excuse me, the zip field. So the zip field, now just type in the zip. So automatically Power BI helps you, it makes you so in your comfort zone. So immediately you type the name, it's going to guess, okay, no, you want the zip field in the geography table. Yes, that's what we want. So that is okay. So the next thing is that we want to combine it with the country column. So we'll use the ampersand here. Then we want to separate by comma. So that's followed by a comma. Then the next thing will be that we want to combine or concatenate with the country column. So that's country. So keep typing here, so get that. So it has to be the same thing from the same table. We don't want to get outside. You're not going to even get the option because it's kind of smart to detect what you should be using. So now, after putting in your expression, the next thing for you to do is either you click this check mark, not the X. The X cancels what you're doing. So this, or while in the box, you can click the enter key. So here you can, let's use this for the first time. So now we have our zip country column. So we do the same thing for the sales table. So if we select the sales table, we can go to the tables tools here, and then we'll look at the options that are available to us. So we have the new column. So the first one, we right click the table, we got the option to create a new column. So now we're using the table tools to create a new column. So that's what the options that you have in here. So I'll do the same thing here, zip country. So is equal to, so the first one is going to be zip. So it's giving us that option here. So we combine using this, the ampersand. So this. So go ahead. So we need the country now. So I'll select this. So this is done. So I can click enter or the check mark there. So I'll click enter this time. So it's going to do the same thing for us. Okay. So now that we have the new columns, let's go back to our model. So now we want to use these new columns to create a relationship. So we're coming from the facts table down to the dimension table, and this works fine. Now we have unique values on the geography table, and also we have the facts table having the repeated values. So I think I see Olayinka Sri Lanka raised his or hands. So can you go ahead and let's have the question first.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
So I just saw what you did now, but I want to ask a question. In case that we don't want to make use of the DAX function, can we actually create a new column and merge the columns we want to get together instead of using DAX? Or DAX is the only way you can actually create a new column?
You can combine, but basically Power BI is going to create the DAX for you. That's, you're kind of looking at, okay, maybe you want to use the quick measures or kind of.
Yes.
Aha. So that is going to be created for you behind the scene. So you don't have to do that. So mostly when you're creating all this and you don't want to use the DAX formula, you can bypass that and go for the options there.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, hello, please, I don't have access to. Okay, I think that's all for now. Okay, so now we've created the relationship So what next? Let's go back to the visuals now. Can you see what is happening here? Now, the visual is actually recognizing the relationship between the two tables. So based on the zip country column that we created. So this is okay now. Now we don't have the same value for all the countries. So one thing also is this. For each of the visuals, for any visuals that you created, there are other functionalities that you can be looking at here. So we can sort, you can export the data, sort, show as a table. So then you can sort based on the country or the revenue as well in ascending or descending order. So this is okay now, but one thing is also wrong here, still here. We have the blank value. So the blank value here. Okay, any question at this point? Any other question?
Hello, ma. I think we'll just entertain any question after the session because of time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then good. So I'll go ahead. So the next thing that I want to do now is that I want to take out the values here that are blank. So we'll have to go to this our filters. So for we have 3 panes here, the filters, the visualization, and the fields now. So if we look at the filter, we don't want to have the filters only on this page. We want to have it on the entire, all the pages that we're having in our report. So this is something unique to all that's going to be unique to all the tables, but this visual is just on its own for now. So we want to look at taking out the blank from all the pages at this instance. We don't want to have it just restricted to the visuals. So we have for the filters on the visuals, on the pages, and also for all the pages. So we're going to drag the country to the filters on all the pages. So now we have an option here. What type of filter do we want to create? So the basic filter that is available here is the basic filtering. So but we're going to change that to advanced filtering. So now it show items when the values are what? So we want to look at when the value is not blank. We don't want the one that is blank. So we're going to select this. So then we apply the filter. So now the blank value is gone. So this is okay for now, that we don't want the empty values there represented on our visuals. So now we can see the relationship now. US is actually having most of the sales based on the values that the survey that has been generated. So we're also followed by Australia and Japan. So, but now we've not actually related it to the manufacturers. So how do we now relate this? We might want to bring in our manufacturer table. So let's create legends. Legends helps us to dig deep into all these columns that have been generated. We want to see for US, what is the proportion of revenue that was generated by our main consultant or our main customer that actually asked us to do the survey. That's Van Asdel. So we want to look at how they perform compared to the other competitors that we're having in the market. So what we'll do is that we'll go to the manufacturer's table, then we drag the manufacturer field into the visualization pane where we have legend. So I'm going to drag this onto the legend now. So you see what we have now. Now we have the values all spread across, showing for each of the competitors. So we have for Van Asdel, which is so high in the United States, then Australia, then we have the other countries there. So this is not helping so much. We might want to change the visuals now. So we would like to say, okay, let's go for which one now? Let's use the stacked column chart. So this helps us to see how each of the values are compared to each other for each of the countries now. So now we can make sense of it that, okay, Van Asdale is actually leading. So if you roll over each of these columns, you get to have more values shown there. So this is for Van Asdale, and the other countries all down. So, but this still doesn't, we have meaningful insights here, but we can still kind of streamline our reports based on these visuals by taking out some of these competitors that are not kind of relevant here. You might not want to kind of look at what's the relationship with people who are just struggling or something, they are just starting up compared to the big names. So if we MTN maybe wants to compare themselves, they want to look at their relationship or how they are performing with Glo, Airtel, and so on. But there are still some that are okay, maybe they're not so visually present in the market. So that is what we're going to look at now. So the next thing we're going to see is that we want to look at the top. Maybe let's look at the top 5 here now. So we want to look at the top 5 of the manufacturers now. So we'll go back to the legend. So we'll go back to the manufacturers. Let's go to the filters pane now. So if you click on this, okay, we want to see, let's go and look for the top N. So for the filters now, we'll look at the top N now. So for the show items based on the top,
nígbà tí epo wọn gan, 50 naira ṣe ń wẹ̀ láti rẹ̀.
Hello, everyone. Good evening once again. Please kindly bear with us. The facilitator is having internet connection issues. She's going to be joining soon. Thank you.
Please, hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. We can.
Sorry, I actually didn't know I was logged out already. Sorry, I don't know if you can just tell me where I was just kind of talking to myself there. So, sorry, where did the communication broke? I didn't see that. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. You will begin realize the description of the data set, the stack column chart. That was where we
Okay, so that means you didn't get where I created the groups?
No, 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 no.
Okay. Okay, so I'll have to delete this. So okay. So, okay. Okay. So I'm going to delete this. Okay. So, okay, sorry. Okay, this is where I stopped. We actually use the manufacturer value to create legend on our data. So I don't know if I did the top N. So I'm going to be fast. So I did actually demonstrate using the top N, that's the top competitors. So then based on the revenue, okay, I apply that. So we're able to get this, but this is not so clean on its own. That's why we said, okay, for this top 5, we can create groups. So we want to create groups that would replace the top 5 that we're looking. This will help us to do much more better insights from our visuals. So that's why I went ahead to this, the manufacturer field. I right click on it and I did look for, I want to create new group. So for the new group now, I want to create for the 5 top competitors now. So the first group that I'm creating here is for the first top 4. Just multi-select, I'll use the control key. So these are the top 4 now. So I'll click on group. So I'll change the name here, top competitor. Top competitors. So that is okay. So that's that. So Van Asdel, I want to make it a single group. Then the others should be included in other group. This is done here. So you just click OK. So we have that here. So the next thing that instead of using manufacturer, I would drag the manufacturer group into the legend. So this is going to give us this unique visuals now. So we don't want to use the top 4. So now we'll make sense of this. Like, okay, now we have others, which is now aggregated like as a single group. Then we have for the top competitors, which includes the Aliquid, Couriers, Natura, and the Pyram. So those are the competitors for Van Asdel. And this is the portion that Van Asdel is taking. So we can now compare our main customer that asks us to do the survey. That's Van Asdel. We can compare their capture of the market compared to the top 4 after them, then the others. So this is what we have here. That I think this is where I lost my connection. So I think I can go ahead here. So, okay, so moving on now. So the next thing that I want to do here is that, okay, We can also, if you want to look at the figures as a table, you can right click on any of these columns. Okay, you can right click and select or deselect each one by clicking the name. Because if you're clicking any of these boxes, you are selecting a certain group, not the actual column, not the actual country. So you can deselect like this, click on the name. If it's going to be Australia, you can click on Australia. If it's going to be Japan, you can click on Japan. So, but if you want to deselect them, you do this, okay? So also, you can also show, if you right click on any of the country, the values there, you can show as a table. So the figures will now be displayed to you. So we'll get to see all the top the countries, as well as the values that are corresponding to all this, the competitors, the others, and for each of the countries. So you can go back to the main report by clicking the icon there. So I don't want to go, sorry. Okay, Nigerian factor here. So now I want to create a new visual. Now I want to collapse this so that I'll have more space for a new visual. So if you want to create a new visual, you have to deselect the visual that you're actually currently working on. So you click on the white space. So clicking on the white space now, I want to look at the revenue and the manufacturers now. So what we need to do is the first, we might want to select, go to the field section again, go to our sales, we select the revenue. So what are we going to compare this or relate the revenue with now is going to be the manufacturer. So now we have something that is similar to what we had before, but we can change this visual. This is just a guessing implementation by Power BI. So it's guessing that, okay, you have some unique values, which it might be okay for us to create a clustered column chart. So if you don't want this, we can decide to change it. So let's take this up. I want to create this. So let's look at a different visual now. So I want us to go forward, a tree map. So it's just like a twin brother or something for the clustered column chart. So this helps us to have a different view now. So now we have a box, a big box representing Van Asdel, and you can see they're taking a large chunk of the old visual. The next one will be Natura. Then you can see, you can look at Aliqui and so on. So this gives us a different view of the data based on what we are having in our table. So the tree map actually helps you to look and compare the value, the various portions, or maybe the value for each of the kind of categorical data that are unique. We compare them together. So the next thing we're going to do now is that, okay, we want to look at the interaction now. We want to look at the various ways we can filter or look at the relationship between each of the visuals that we're having here before we run out of time. So if I select any item on this visual, you can see the relationship now is affecting the next visual. For any visual that is on your page, they have a relationship, a default relationship. That's the highlight mode. So if the highlight mode now is that, okay, you selected Australia. So all this value, the real highlighted ones, not the gray, almost grayed out, like blood out part of the box is representing the value corresponding to the country Australia. So if I select USA, you say it's changing. So you can change the way this filtering is occurring by looking at, go to the format. You can, when I select this, there are a new, okay, let me go back. Okay, so I will deselect each of the visuals. If I select you can see the tabs that are available here. But if I select any of the visuals now, 2 new tabs are added for me. So I can also decide to select values like this, and I still have something, the 2 tabs there. So if I want to change the way they are relating with each other, I don't want it highlighted like this. I want the actual, when I select USA, I want the actual figure or the display, the visuals corresponding to United States. So I'm going to go to the Format tab here. There's an icon here, Edit Interaction. So if I click on that, there's going to be a new icon on the visual that was not selected. So I can decide, if you roll over, there are 3 icons here. This is for filtering. Let me take out this zoom menu. This is for filtering. It gives you the actual value that corresponds to the filter, not highlighted one. I don't want the blood or the other portion showing. So this is what I would get if I select the filtering mode. But this one that is there, the highlights mode, is the default, which is actually showing me the highlighted value that I needed. That's for the United States, as well as the one that is the portion that has been taken out, blurred out. So I'm going to change the mode now to filtering. Can you see what happens now? So I'm actually getting the real visual for United States. So now the visual that I'm having on revenue by manufacturer actually corresponds to all these manufacturers, the way they perform based on their revenue in the United States. So that is what is happening now. So by selecting this column, I'm having the visuals in the tree map showing how Van Asdel and the other competitors are performing in United States, not in all the countries. So in the other countries are not, their portion is not highlighted now. So this is the 2 interactions that you can have, the highlights mode and cross filtering mode. So this helps you. And if you don't want any interaction, you can decide to click this and there will be no interaction. Each is on its own now. So no matter what I do here, nothing is going to happen on the next visual. So that is that. I'm looking at the time. So do I still have more time? I'm going to make it up by recording some videos to close up on the actual things that I want to cover in this class for today. I'm going to record them, post it in the Google Classroom, so for you to watch during the week. So, moderator, sorry.
Okay, yeah. Good evening once again, ma. Okay, I think we'll still have like 4 minutes. Maybe you still want to add a few things.
Okay, we might not be able to cover so much, so I don't want to go into the next visual.
Okay,
so if
okay.
any entertain question, so if you want to extend the class, then that would be okay, but I can make it up in the class.
Yes, that is perfect. Thank you so much, ma, for this wonderful session. We are really grateful. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. The session has been enlightening. So, ladies and gentlemen, my cohort mates, please let's appreciate Mrs. Bilikisu Aderinto in the chat room. And also, in the next few minutes, I'll be entertaining questions, just 1 or 2 questions, and then we can move the engagement to the Google Classroom. So if you have any question for her, quickly drop it in the chat so I can read it for her to respond to. So if you have any question, I will be scanning through the chat room now to see if there's any question. Thank you very much, Ma, once again. We are really grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the chat room is okay. Yes, so they are just saying thank you. So there's no question for now. Yeah, so please now kindly permit me to share my screen.
Okay, thank you. I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah, so before we end the session and we move the engagement to the Google Classroom, I just want to inform us that The data set that we're going to be working on for this project participation is now live. It has been made live. So I'll be dropping the link to this webpage where you can see the full overview of this program, the benefits, how you can engage the data set, where you can download the data set, and the submission date. So the submission date is scheduled to be on the 8th of April, Friday, 8th of April. So the like I said, the data set is now live, so we can download it and start visualizing the data set, making use of our Power BI knowledge. So I'll be dropping the link to this web page in the chat room now for us to access. Yeah, so this will be all for today. Once again, we appreciate you for taking your time, even with all the inconvenience. We are really grateful that you made it here this evening, ma. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. So the engagement continues in the Google Classroom. Remember that our facilitator and the DSN team will be there to attend to our questions. So if there is anything bothering, just post the question in the Google Classroom. We'll be ready to attend to you. Thank you so much once again, everyone. To enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.